I need you to find out the code and give it to him so he can read it out loud, okay?
I'm sending it to you right now. Oh, what, we recording? All right, guys, we about to start this meeting. Guess what, guys? It is Friday. Golden Text meeting at JC's. We're gonna start with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
The MC on the mic, my name is Anthony, and I am an addict, nothing more, nothing less.
Anthony.
Alcohol Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experiences, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement of membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not ally with, you know what I'm saying, with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institute. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor oppose any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. All right, we're gonna have a great meeting. I invited a dear family member / friend to speak tonight. So I would need, what's your name? Joshua to tell us how it works. No, more about alcoholism.
Right. So where do I end that? Right there?
Right here, stop here, stop.
Thanks. Phone's right here.
Speak into the mic. Go ahead. Just make sure you speak in the mic because they can.
Yeah. All right. More about alcoholism.
What's your name?
Oh, Josh, addict.
Hi, Josh.
Josh. More about alcoholism. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is a great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our nearmost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic has ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitfall and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of the progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better, with or without drinking. We are like men who have lost their legs, they never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this,
But it hasn't done so yet.
Nope. Thank you, Joshua. All right, I'm gonna need somebody, but not just anybody, Katie, to come and tell us how it works.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm an alcoholic.
Katie.
And this is how it works. Wow, this is like super close to me. I don't know if it's very tight. All right. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Many of us exclaim, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could relieve our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would remove us all.
Thank you, Katie. All right, we're gonna get this meeting started right tonight. Last week I had to think, if this was my last meeting in the world, who I would like to speak. I mean, only been to 2 weddings in my whole life, and 2 of them happened during my recovery. Miriam and Noah and Taylor and George Collins actually allowed me to sing at their wedding. Didn't even know me. Through my sobriety, they've been a big part of it. It's because they took the time to understand me. And when I thought I was alone, they assured me I wasn't. And she adopted me into her family, you know what I'm saying? So if I can have anybody talk about their strength, hope, where they've been and where they're going, I would like to hear her. So come and hit the mic.
All right, my name is Taylor. I am an alcoholic.
Taylor.
Hi, guys. So, first off, just gonna tell you a little bit about myself to qualify myself. My name's Taylor. I was born in New Jersey. I've been basically born and raised down here though forever, so. Not born, but raised down here forever. I'm the oldest of 5. My parents were both, how should I put this? My dad was an alcoholic and used drugs, but he was functioning. So we always still had what we needed, and we were never like abandoned as far as emotionally we were, but as far as like needing anything we needed, we always had. My mom, on the other hand, who is deceased now, was a terrible drug addict my whole life, like pills, pills, crack cocaine, everything. Like, I know this is AA, but everything. She was a complete drug addict, not an alcoholic though, like as far as she didn't drink at all. So basically that led me to a very rough childhood, seeing domestic violence all the time, my dad going to prison, my mom continuing to just be a mess, living with family member to family member in different states, foster care, all that stuff. And I was very emotionally unstable as a little girl. Didn't really realize it, but would lash out a lot. Never thought I'd fit in. Like, I know you guys hear that a lot, but never thought I would fit in, but didn't think I was worthy of belong. Like, these people are different than me. I'm not like that. Nobody's like that. This hasn't happened to you. You don't know what it's like. That whole thing, and ran with the guilt trip and victim trip for a long time. I started my own drinking and using when I was 13. I did good in elementary and middle school. Sorry if I'm jumping around, but I did good in elementary and middle school. No behavior issues. Was good in school, like nothing like that. But when I got to 8th grade, when I graduated 8th grade, that's when everything changed. I never, like, the good kids, as far as being with the good kids, I never fit in with people that were like doing what they were supposed to do. I never thought I'd fit in. Like, I felt like an oddball. Like, my life is different. They didn't grow up. They grew up with both their parents and have cars and this and that, and like, I don't belong here, so I'm gonna go over here with the crappy people, and that's where I belong, and that's what I am. That's the type of thing I did. But then I also never felt like I fit in there, because I wasn't raised that way. Like, even though I was around drugs and alcohol and like domestic violence and stuff like that, I still, the majority of the time I was living with other people, and I wasn't raised that way. So I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway, because I was playing the pity party and the victim, and I just wanted, to do it. At that time, I just thought I wanted to do it. So in high school, I barely went to high school, skipped school, all the time, hung out with the wrong kids. I started smoking pot at 13, smoking cigarettes and drinking. The first time I drank, I blacked out. I couldn't tell you like anything, so I was right then and there. When I look back at it now, I was drinking to get drunk. I wasn't drinking to socialize at all. I'd be the only one in the corner, like either peeing on myself sometimes because I was laughing too hard, or just peeing on myself. I thought I was the life of the party, but I was the mess of the party. Everybody would want us, stop drinking, and I'd want to keep drinking until I was on the front lawn, like, unconscious. So the pot wasn't really a bad thing. It was a bad thing, but it wasn't, like, putting me in danger in any other ways like the drinking did. And then I always hung out with older people, so with the drinking, it led to cocaine quickly, and I had been around it, so I knew what it did to people, but I also knew, like, I knew what it did as far as the effect, but as far as how your life turns out, I kind of knew as well, because I was living in like foster homes my whole life, going with family, but I didn't care because my parents did it, so I guess I'm supposed to do it, right? So, not supposed to, but it's not a big deal. That was my whole thing, what's the big deal? So I started using that, and was again still in high school, never was in high school. Everything escalated very, very quickly. Like 13 was the weed and the alcohol, and it stayed that way till about 15. So it was very short, like not very short. I'm only 25, but it was very short-lived. And then after that, it was like I didn't drink or smoke pot anymore at all because it wasn't enough. And instead of just doing everything, I stopped and went to the other stuff. That escalated very quickly. I did everything you can think of. You know, I'm an alcoholic, a drug addict, I'm whatever you want to call it. When people say they'll do anything, like they're like a dumpster, they'll get high on anything. I used to get offended when people would say that because I'm like, that's not me. I don't get high on anything. But in all reality, when something wasn't around and you had something, I was doing it, whether it was what I wanted to do or not. So, let's see. I never lived with my mom throughout that whole time, like my childhood, because of everything going on. But I always wanted to be mommy's girl. I always wanted to live with my mom, talk to my mom about boys, just have that mother and daughter bond that I would see that my girlfriends had with their parents. You know, their moms would go out with us, we'd get nails done. I didn't have that ever. The best I had was when she was taking like prescription painkillers, but she was abusing them. So when she would abuse them, we would have a great girls' day. She used to do acrylics, like nails, a nail technician, and she would do that for me, and that was like my mommy time, which to me was everything, but wasn't what it should have been. So in high school, I ran away from my father, living in Davie. I ran away from my dad to go live with my mom in Hollywood. My mom and my dad got separated when I was in elementary school because of the domestic violence and stuff like that. Since my dad got out of prison, they didn't get back together. She met somebody else, little rewind, sorry. And they stayed together for about 14 years. So my dad, you know, didn't want me there because of how my mom was and drugs and stuff. But like I said, I wanted to be mommy's girl. So I ran away and left anyway. I still wasn't going to school, basically dropped out at that point. Didn't see anything wrong with it. So I lived with my mom and my stepdad, and I lived with my mom and my stepdad. They were getting high. Sooner or later, I was getting high with them. Like, it was nothing, it was normal. I know I said I have 5 other siblings. A lot of people that know me don't know that because my mother had a little girl that got adopted from birth that actually I lived with in foster care with the couple that adopted her until something tragic happened with them sexually, and I told what happened, and I got taken out of there, but they left my little sister, who's now 10 and still is with them. Then my mom had twin boys that were removed 7 years ago, like it was about 7 years ago, I think. 7 years ago were removed from her for the same thing, and they're adopted. So nobody knows of them unless you really know me. So, sorry, I'm jumping around. So I was getting high with my mom, my stepdad, drinking, going out, sleeping with everybody. I thought it was, you know, cool. They would let me have whoever I wanted over. And then one day I was in a lot of pain, and I was outside with my brothers, and she's like, I have something to take the pain away, which I knew she did. Like, that's my alcoholism and addiction right there. I knew my mom had something that would get me to be different. Like, I saw how it made her, and I was in pain. So I didn't ask for it, but I asked for it. Like, I was like, oh, it really hurts, like hinting to her, and she knew. And she said, I'll give you a little bit, but that's it. And gave me a half of a pill, and that was it. I got sick, the whole 9. 2 days later, she gave it to me again, and I was hooked. I was doing it every day, all day, like, that was it. I did that for 5 years. Horrible. There was a period of time where I wasn't doing it because I wanted to or wanted to get high. I could not move or function if not. There was nothing was going to be done. the type, I knew I had a problem for sure, because I knew my mom had a problem. So I started knowing I had a problem and thought that, well, it's gonna be like that for her forever, so I might as well enjoy it. Like, that's gonna be me. But then at the same time, I was like, that won't be me. I was just very confused, very, very confused. So I lived that for 5 years, which was terrible. Had no life, stayed in the house. The highlights of my day were getting better and cooking dinner and starting all over again the next day. And playing with my little brothers, because my mother still had custody of them. Once the pill stuff was done and it started back into drinking all the time and crack cocaine and heroin, that's when everything went down. The kids went out, that was gone. They were caught walking down the street by themselves, 2 years old. My mom sold everything. We had nothing, sold everything my stepdad's mother had, because her parents wouldn't have anything to do with her. They wouldn't have nothing. My grandmother's very well off, and my grandfather on my mom's side was very wealthy, and you wouldn't think my mom had a pot to piss in because they wouldn't give her a dime. And it had been that way for a long time, since I was born, because she had been doing what she was doing. So that's when lights would go off. I mean, they'd hook the lights up to the car to have lights in the house. Like, it was insane. It was crazy. And I wouldn't stay home really. I would leave, and then eventually it led to me having to find my own supply, because I wasn't going to just get, oh, here, this is what you have, and that's it. It wasn't going to go like that. So I did everything and anything that I had to do to get high. I did things to shame my body that I shouldn't have done. I was put in terrible situations. You guys know how it goes. And that's what I did for about 3 years. I don't know how I never got killed. I almost did, but that's besides the point at this point, thank God. So I did that whole thing, and then my father would drive around looking for me, like I can't even imagine, for his daughter walking the streets, stuff like that. It was horrible. And there was nothing he could do. At that point, my dad was always functioning. So he was drinking, he wasn't doing other stuff that I could even tell, who knows. But the pain that he must have had, I can't imagine. I kind of think I know, because I knew how it felt to be on the other side as a child. So I can't imagine how it felt to be a parent and watching that happen. So during all that, I met I don't like to call him my son's father, because he's not at all, but genetically he is. So I met my son's father, and around my friends that I was growing up in high school with, and at that time I was just doing pills once in a while. I wasn't like messed up. Dragged him into all of it, so he was there during this time. I dragged him into all of it, got him hooked, and there was a lot of domestic violence, because I did whatever I had to do to get it. Like, I would hide it from him, but he obviously knew what I was doing. My mom was my running buddy as well, so we did everything together, things I wish I would never have done with my mother that I wish I would never do with anybody. But during that time, I got sober for a little while. I had never tried to get sober at all until I was 20 years old. I didn't know about meetings or anything like that. So I got pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant for 3 months, because I was using so much I wouldn't get my cycle, so I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, my mom's like, I think you need to take a pregnancy test. So I'm like, okay. So I took one, and I was clean for that bit, so I knew that it was my boyfriend's child, thank God. And I took a pregnancy test, and I was pregnant. And I had been using everything you could think of for 3 months while I was pregnant. And I still did up until 5 months, because I desperately I didn't know people in recovery, and I couldn't find anywhere that would take me pregnant, because I was a liability. Like, anywhere. Like, they would tell me I had to call and say that I was gonna kill myself to get treatment. And I was like, I'm not doing that, that's crazy. Like, my life's any better. Like, I should be doing that with bells on. So eventually, I called my dad and I told him, I'm like, this is it, I can't do it anymore. I don't want my son growing up like I did. I want to go to treatment. So I went to Memorial Regional, told them I was going to kill myself, and my recovery started there. I went to Susan B. Anthony. I did good for a little while, but now looking back, I did good for about 7 months. But looking back, I didn't do it for me at all. It was for my son. It was so he can have a life I did, which I don't care what anybody says. Your mom, your dad, your pet, your kid, anything is not going to keep you sober. It's just not. It might for a little while, but it's not going to last very long. So I left. I stayed at Susan B for 6 months with my son, got a job, saved money, did really well, and then I left. When my son was 3 months, I left with my mother, knowing that I should have not gone anywhere with my mother, and relapsed on the way out of there. And that whole started again. And then I picked up right where I left off. I wound up on and off trying to get sober. I wound up losing custody of my son because of everything that happened. I OD'd twice once I found out that I wasn't going to get him back. The pain I can't even describe unless you've been through it, which I wish nobody here will do it again or ever go through it, but it was horrible. And I was on a mission to die and didn't even know it. Like, I really didn't know it, but I was trying to kill myself. I overdosed twice. The first time I did, I wasn't going on runs anymore though. That's the weird thing. Like, I knew what would happen. After I had my son and lost him for good, I never went on any run again. I would get high for like 2 days and then stop. And then get high for a day and then stop. But this was every like month or so or 2 months. I never like was back out there, like how we get out there. And that was really weird to me. I never understood it because people would say to me, I don't know how did you just get high yesterday? And I'm like, I don't know. Why'd you just drink last night? You're not doing it now. And so I started telling myself, oh, I'm not an addict or an alcoholic because I did it yesterday one time. They did it and they're looking on the floor the next day. Like, so I used that for a while, and then I overdosed once in front of my cousin. Thank God she was there. She saved my life, and I never did it again. I was like, that's it. I did it one more time after that, and then the same thing happened. I mean, you don't get high anymore if you guys don't notice. You die. So I never did that again. That was the last time, about 3 years ago, that I ever did that, heroin and all that. Up until then, I just used, cocaine here and there, and did the whole thing again, a halfway shuffle, been in and out of every halfway, been in and out of every phone room, trying to make money and get a job, all that. So basically, you guys know how that goes. Now I'm gonna get to when I got sober this time, these 14 months, and how my life's now, because that's the most important thing. And the center of it, I can't tell you enough that it's all God. Without God, none of this would be possible, and I know for a fact I wouldn't be standing here for as long as I am. I've tried to get sober probably 7 times, never got over 6 months, and I have 14 months, which is a miracle. So I what started my recovery is I went to Peter Marinelli, who is my uncle. I went to his treatment center for about 3 months, and that started my recovery. I started working with a sponsor that actually knew the big book. The program was the book. It wasn't what everybody said. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't brought exactly through this big book the way it's supposed to be gone through. So I went through it like old school for the first time ever, and it clicked. I never understood anything. When I sat down and read it, word for word, like read the big book, because that's what it's for. It's not to walk around with and look at page 69 or something. Like, you're supposed to read it. When I did that, I understood, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, all of it. And I wanted to talk about it all the time. Like, I would talk about it to my Aunt Mary, and I would talk about it. So I would tell my family. I'd be like, you should do this and you should do that. It's for people that aren't even alcoholics. Like, I loved it. And when I got out of Peter's, I went to Halfway, and I was still sober. It was about 2 months, and that's when I met my now husband. Which is funny because I had seen him a lot of times before that. He was 4 years sober, and I've seen him pick up his 1-year medallion. It's kind of creepy, but whatever. So I watched him pick up his year medallion, and I was always wanted like what he had, not his looks and all that, but like I wanted what I wanted what he had. The way he would speak was like so precise. My husband thinks about what he's gonna say. I don't know how he does it because he talks really fast, but every word that comes out of his mouth is thought of. It doesn't just come out and like, oh, I shouldn't say that. It's thoroughly thought through. So it was attractive to me, the way he knew the book, the way he would talk about God was the number one thing, and I can't tell you that, I would never tell you that before. You must have had golds in your mouth and Jordans on your feet and have tattoos all over for me to look at you the way I was looking at him, talking about God. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Because he looks like, you know, he was dressed, I think he was wearing Jordans, but he was like dressed like, you know, not hood, but you know. Yeah, like Mario. He was dressed like that, but the words coming out of his mouth was so intelligent, and the way he spoke about God, it was like, that was it. But I was like, we're not, you know, whatever. So I let that go, and then, like I'm getting to, eventually, we met in person. He knew my name, I knew his, well, I knew his name before, but whatever. Was when I was 2 months sober, and he was gonna kill me, but the first thing, because I knew he was sober a while, so I'm like, what is he, like, this guy's like, what the hell is he doing? And he's like, have you been through your 5th step? I'm like, what? And he's like, well, we can't talk unless you did your 5th step. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean anything, but yeah. He's like, all right. So my life dramatically, like, changed. Dramatic. I don't even know how it did. I sit and think about it, and it's like crazy. I don't even know how to explain it. I jumped right into learning about God. I started changing as a person. I worried about how I talked to people. I worried about how I cursed. I would like catch myself because every time he would say something like, don't say that, don't say that. He was just such a good influence. Without it, you know, I'm not praising him. This is all God. I want you guys to know that. I'm not praising my husband. But without God first, because he brought me to God. So without God, him bringing me to God, and then him as well being my #1 supporter and sticking with me through, I am not easy to deal with, sober or using. So he stuck with me through it all and got me to where I am today. Always keeps my hand in God's hand and reminds me to go back to him. You know, well, did you pray? Did you do this? Did you do that? So I stayed sober for about 6 months with him. I started like having a fellowship around good people, not people that were trying to get in your pants and have you sleep over at their halfway. Good people that really wanted the best things for me, that had sobriety, that knew about the book that I knew about, the way you're supposed to know about, knew it that way. And I wanted what they had. I'm not going to name people, but if you guys know me, you see people that I'm with all the time, and if it wasn't for them, I don't know, because I definitely needed them with God. I believe God would have got me through it without them, but I would not be the person that I am right now without all of them. I can't say that enough. My husband told me, you're gonna relapse, you're gonna relapse, you're gonna relapse, because I was lying. I was starting to do everything all over again. Slowly the patterns were coming in, slowly. And he told me, you're gonna get high, you're gonna drink, you're gonna get high, you're gonna drink. And nobody wants to hear that. So I'm like, why do you keep telling me that? He's like, because it's gonna happen. Well, sooner or later, I relapsed on my 6 months to the day. And I called him and I'm like, I relapsed. He's like, I know. I'm like, what? He's like, okay, so what are you gonna do? And I'm like, because after I drank even more before I told him, because I'm like, that's it. We're done. He's not gonna talk to me. Nothing, like it's over. I lost everything. And he was just like, okay, so what are you gonna do? I'm like, get sober again. And literally the next day, I got sober again. I stayed sober again for about, I stayed sober for, my memory is so bad. I don't remember, I couldn't tell you, I'm not good with time, but I stayed sober again, and then we got into I was doing the kratom, okay, I was the kratom queen. I was doing that, and you couldn't tell me nothing. Everybody has their own opinions about it, so I'm not gonna go into it, but you couldn't tell me nothing. So anyways, it is using in a way.
No, it's using.
It's using.
It's not an opinion.
It's using. It's not an opinion, you're using. I just didn't want to say.
It's using.
No, I agree with that.
I agree with you.
Okay, so you're using. And so I did that, and I knew that was gonna lead to something, so that led to an argument, because I flat out told him and thought he was gonna be like, oh, it's okay. No, he didn't want, it's not like that. Because I've been lying about it for like 3 months. So all of a sudden I wanna tell the truth after 3 months. He's like, what the hell? So I'm like, yeah, I've just been doing that, and it's like nothing serious. And he's like, you're gonna drink. And we got in a huge fight. He kicked me out, and I decided to do coke all night that night. And I was like, for sure, like that's it. Nothing, like it's never gonna work again. I'm gonna start back at square one, because we were living in a nice apartment. I had like everything I wanted. I had everything. So in a short amount of time, that's the problem. I got it back quick, and then I got it taken away from me quick. But it was still there. Like I didn't have to I had to work for it, but when I got sober again, it was just right back there. So long story short, he made me leave and go to Halfway for 2 months, which was, it's not funny, Stevie. It was very hard for me. I was like a miserable person walking around here. Anywhere we were, I was like, are you home yet? I'm like, no, not. So for 2 months he made me leave, and I grew a lot. At first I was like sick to my stomach, but I grew a whole lot. I would beg to come home, he wouldn't let me. I never met someone that strong in my life. Like, I would beg, he'd be like, nope, I'm gonna take you back, it's 10 o'clock, we gotta go. I'm like, what? He's like, your curfew is 10 o'clock, we gotta go. So, I'd go back to the Halfway, so that lasted for 2 months. Eventually he let me go home, and everything changed. I started doing my steps. I got, my sponsor doesn't care about me saying his name, so I will say it. My sponsor, Paul DeLeo, brought me through the steps. I heard something in him that night up there that I was not gonna leave him alone, his wife alone, or anybody alone that knew him until he was gonna sponsor me. It was just, he's like, my wife? I'm like, no, I want you. And I don't know what it is, but George even said, he's like, yeah, you need him. So he brought me through the steps. He brought me through the steps quick. To like life or death. You got to get through these steps. You're doing it now. We met every week for an hour. We rarely met over an hour unless it was my third step, just because I'm very scatterbrained. So he rather would have met me a lot and me get the information and for that hour than sit and drill me for 3 hours and like I not get it, because that's how I've been brought through it before. Like sit the book and read it all day and I wouldn't hear or listen to nothing. So we did that. I now have, me and George got better again from there. We moved into our own place. We had our own place, but we moved into our own house. Not that we're buying or anything, but it's ours. It's our own house for now that we rent. It's half ours. And I have a stepson that is 7, that I am a big part of his life. It's really cool because me, his mom, and her now fiance and George go, like, we all hang out together. Like, we've hung out before without him. It's weird. It's not weird, but people are like, what is wrong? Like, how do you hang out with her? How do you do that? And I'm like, what do you mean, how do I do that? And I adore her. I love her. I text her all the time. We talk about stuff, make jokes to each other. Like, it's not awkward. It's not weird at all. And yeah, it might be because, she has a fiance, but I don't think it even would be. Her and George were together for a long time, 14 years, and they've both been very honest with me about, their past and stuff like that. But if a woman can sit there and talk to me about what happened to her with my husband and tell me how much of a different man he is today, I have respect for him and her, though. It's just, we all get along. We go to Disney, we stayed in the same hotel together, like, doing our hair together, and they're in the room, like, talking with Georgie, and it was just, I don't know, it was really cool. I had never experienced anything like that because my parents were divorced, and they either hated each other and were killing each other, or were together for the night and then back to the craziness. So to see, for me as an adult, to be able to help give this little boy, 4 of us, that love him no matter what. Like, he knows that the four of us, he has, no matter what, and his grandmother and stuff, but was like amazing. And I fell in love with him or whatever. My son lives in New York with my aunt. We do not have any communication whatsoever. He knows he's adopted. He asked what my name was. They didn't tell him because they thought it would bring memories back because he was only 3. So he knows though, but they didn't want to like trigger anything. He has an amazing life, goes to a private school, smart as could be. He's very, very intelligent. My father goes up there and sees him all the time. Like I said, he knows he's adopted, but we're waiting, which took me a while, but now I understand. Like, I tell people, no, we don't have communication, but we will soon. And, people say things that they want to say, but I'm not worried about how I feel. For a long time, I was worried about how I feel. I'm worried about how he is going to feel and what he thinks. And my family is going to tell him everything no matter what. He's going to know that I let this happen, because I did. I could have fought it, but I wasn't going to drag my son through DCF for another 1.5 years and probably most likely lose because I shouldn't stay sober, and then he would have gone to strangers. So I agreed to let happen what needed to happen. And sooner or later, I see pictures of him all the time. I send him stuff. I send him cards, send him gifts, stuff like that. He thinks they're from a special friend, but, whatever. He's adorable. And then, I'm starting to sweat. And then, during this time also, I got my relationship back with my father. He's my best friend. I love him to death. I'd do anything for him. Which I don't know how George does it, because my dad has not got along with my cousin will tell you, my dad has not got along with anybody in general. He doesn't get along with nobody. He does, but he's got, I don't know, he's from New York, so. He's just like, whatever. But him and my husband get along so well that my dad was struggling. My dad's older now. He provided for me all the time, so my dream was to have my dad walk me down the aisle and have him be able to live with me, to be there for him, to help him, because I know he won't go without, just like he did for me. And that's how it is now. My dad lives with us. Sometimes it's hard, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, him and George get along great. I'm used to it now, so if he says something, I'm like, all right, Dad, whatever. Not all the time, but, So we have our own house. We got married. We got married before we were even together for a year. Lovely Stevie married us. I never thought in a million years that I would ever get married. Who wants to, no, it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna find someone who's crazy. So we got married. I love him so much. I love his parents as my own parents. I look up to his mother like mine, which we go to church together. They brought me into church. The center of this, I want you guys to know that it is God, okay? You can find a higher power. My higher power is Jesus Christ, God. Whatever works for you will works for you. Eventually, it'll probably, lead to something bigger than the doorknob, but if that's it for now, so be it. But mine is Jesus Christ, and without him, I wouldn't be anything. I have a job. I have relationships back with my family. I am a productive member of society. And then the other biggest thing is I sponsor all the time. I wasn't for a while because of everything going on, so I messaged people on Facebook and posted it and was like, I need sponsees who needs help. And a few men that run, women's halfways and men's halfways, big ones around us, gave me a bunch of people right away. I had to tell people no. So I meet with 4 girls every week, sometimes double. For a while I was meeting with them every single night, and it got to be, I had to have a day for myself and my husband. But I meet with sponsees and they save my life. When I get in an argument with George or anybody, I'm like, I gotta go meet a sponsee. And he's like, no, where you going? I'm like, I'm going to meet a sponsee, bye. And I leave, and I get to vent to my sponsees about certain things, and then I forget anything that happened before that. Like, I'm happy, I'm meeting with them, talking to them about the book, bringing them through the work, and I forget about everything. Like, I remember why I'm doing this, where I came from, and I go home. Of course, I have to make it right, whatever we're arguing about. but, you know, I make it right and realize how grateful I am. But my sponsees help me more than I help them, I feel like. They love doing the work. I don't have to hunt them down because I won't hunt them down. They call me. We meet on the days we're supposed to meet. And that's just really it. Finally, I'm recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, and that doesn't mean I'm cured by any means. It just means that I'm not desperate. I'm desperate for recovery, but I'm not hopeless anymore. Exactly what it means. I know that there's hope no matter what was to happen. If God forbid my father was to die tomorrow, I think I'd be okay. Which I would have never told you that before. It was just being like, I'm gonna kill myself. So, yeah, thanks for letting me share, and that's about it.
Didn't she make me look good? Thank you. That was amazing. You hit so many corners. I almost got, fell off the road for a little bit. But if you can learn about listening to somebody's stories, understanding that you're not alone. This is not a pity party. Nobody is invited to that party. No, I don't even want to go to that type of party. We all have to go through things to get to where we're going, but you can't stop and be idle. I'm just proud of you, of where you came from and where you're going. And I'm blessed to even be a part of it and being able to see it. We're going to open up the meeting for anyone that wants to share. Can we give her another hand clap? Thank you. Miss Collins. We're going to start with Mario. Come and hit the mic. You think I won't gonna let you? Oh, yeah, he had 1 year yesterday. My homeboy Mario.
How you doing? My name is Mario, and I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Mario.
Taylor. Oh man, I remember when I first met you. I was cooking breakfast for Alan, and you came out of the room out of nowhere, and you introduced yourself, and then I was like, George, what is that, man? Yeah. Thank you for your words of encouragement. I didn't know things. I've said things that I never knew about you, which, it just opened my eyes to understand where you came from and what you've been through. And I really appreciate everything you had to say. And wow, I don't know why I'm so freaking nervous. But I want to thank everybody, even the new faces here at JC's. If it wasn't for everybody. Too bad Jerry's not here, because, bro.
Well, you're picking up him tonight next week, right?
Yeah, next week.
He'll be here.
Thank you for letting me share.
All right, Spirit says, let the cousin come and speak. Oh, yes, we do it here. Come on, big cousin. You know it better than anybody in the room.
You put her on the spot.
I do. Nobody.
All right, so my name is Margaret. I am a recovering addict.
Margaret.
I'm going on 4 years clean.
Congratulations.
Yes. So, I guess I can tell you a little about myself. Taylor's my cousin. Well, I'm just thinking of how I'm going to say this. So, I don't know, I'm nervous. I haven't spoken in a really long time. I'm a mother of 3 kids, 4 stepchildren. So I have a lot of time, not a lot of free time lately. But all I can say is that for your newcomers to continue keep coming, do your step work, go to meetings. Eventually, I never thought I would have made it to a year either. I can tell you that when I did hit my year, I felt like the next couple years just flew by. You know, it becomes a lifestyle. You just keep hanging around the right people. It's definitely people, places, and things. I changed my whole, these are my stomping grounds over here, Hollywood. This is where I did my dirt. I did move to Pompano. I do have a guy that is not in recovery. I can tell you that that's a little bit of a plus. I really don't know what else to say. Just stay clean, keep doing the right thing, and take it day by day. Thank you for letting me do that.
Let Niecy hit the mic.
I got it on live, so I heard.
Right there.
It looks different. Hi, my name is Anissa, and I am a grateful recovering addict alcoholic. Taylor, it's great to always great to see you. Your story is similar to mine. You know, it's funny how we never felt like we fit in till we came in. You know, I want to congratulate you on everything you're doing. You know, I see it's fun. I got to tell your story. So I'm leaving work, and I get to this light right here, and for some reason, I think I was letting somebody know, a guy was walking across the street, and I got this person behind me, and they're on the horn, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this? And so me, you know, is working my steps too, because I wasn't cussing her out. And I look back and it's Taylor. And so she sees me and then she blows me down and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So to see that, you know what I mean, nobody is perfect and we both fall short, and you was big enough to stop me and apologize. But I love you, and that's just, it was funny. Yeah, she had to be there. Yeah, oh, she was. But congratulations. And Mario, congratulations. I'm super proud of you. Keep going.
All right. Gotta call Superman with the master plan, guy I look up to for support and strength, Mr. Stevie Beasy.
Easy.
No, we actually run out of time, too. Oh, get over here, homeboy. Wouldn't have been a show without you. Mr. George Collins.
Recovered alcoholic, member of Step Back. My name is George. So in case y'all are wondering why it's weird, I wasn't here. My wife was a little nervous because it's the first time she ever spoke. So
She did great.
I get it. So I stayed at the house and watched it on Zoom. I can't begin to imagine, tell you. She says she's a hard person to deal with. Me too. I'm 4 years sober, and I'm just as hard to deal with as she is a year sober. Stuff doesn't really get necessarily any easier. It's just about how you deal with it. That's what life's really about in recovery. It's about how we deal with it. It's our actions that dictate who we are, not what we think. It's only who we are acting. Y'all can't hear me?
No. Now they certainly can't hear you online.
Say it again?
No.
All right, I'm 4 years sober.
No idea what you said.
March 25th is 4 years sober. She's actually 15 months sober, not 14. Like I say, actions dictate who we are. 4 years sober, I'm just as hard to deal with as she is a year sober if I act the wrong way. And Mapo, man, you hear what Taylor said? Yeah, you gotta do some work. 15 months ago, I didn't know if there was a chance. But there's a chance for everybody. All you gotta do is take advantage of the chance. You know, like a lot of people in here have gambled before, and you want some money. You can put no money in the machine, you're never gonna win anything. That's what let me show you guys.
All right, George.
Hi everybody, Stevie B, recovering alcoholic. And Taylor did such a wonderful job. That was really powerful, and I can imagine how many women are going to be affected in the future by your story. I mean, and to know you're so young. I didn't know you were so young until tonight. And I didn't know what you've been through until tonight. And my respect level went up for you, 1,000%. I didn't grow up like that. You know, I grew up in a very well put together home, and I still became an addict. And came in at the same age as you. I came in at 24. And stayed sober 7 years, but didn't think that alcohol was a drug. And kratom is a drug, 100%. Anything that we use to get high is a drug. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter, they come up with something and they change the DNA on it, they change the structure of it, it's a drug. A drug is a drug. You are very powerful in all ways. Like your sponsees must be very, very blessed. George is very blessed, and you're very blessed to have George. And I was very blessed to be part of your wedding ceremony as well as Miriam's. That's a great part of my job. Unfortunately, when it comes to the ratio of weddings to funerals, is no comparison. I facilitate maybe 12 funerals a year and maybe 3 weddings a year. So 12 funerals that I get to have the burden of doing for families, or 3 weddings a year that's the most amazing thing ever, and I never forget. And it's your choice. It's our choice. Weddings, funerals. It's all in our hand. This addiction does not play. Last week we lost 3 weeks ago we lost someone that just was drinking alcohol, died. Last week we lost someone that was just doing cocaine, died. A couple weeks before that, someone was doing fentanyl, obviously, died. So it's just like the COVID. One person could have COVID and show no symptoms. Another person could have COVID and they cannot recover, they die. Another person can get recovered COVID and then they recover fine. That is the same thing as what we have if we go out and use drugs. We can use drugs once, like Ben Peck is, and use once and you're gone. Or you can go on a run and you can stay out there years and become brain dead and never become an incredible story. Never have an incredible testimony like Taylor and George, like Noah and Miriam, like Mario is. But I 100% agree with George about Mario. If Mario is not in the steps right now, because Mario's already had a year, several times. If Mario is not in the steps and he's not actively working the steps, it's just like anything else. Our active addiction will come back to us. There's nobody, I mean, it's great. We're going to all cheer for Mario. We love Mario. He's one of the most special people that's ever come through JC's, ever. And we're going to be proud to have him as a graduate, as George is a graduate of ours. But if Mario does not start doing the work now, or I don't know if you are or not, I don't know his program, but if he's not and George just said it's time to do the work, and he doesn't, then it'll just be another milestone on the way to a relapse. Because we have active addiction, active alcoholism. Taylor said she's recovered. She's only recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. She has not recovered from alcoholism. None of us have. My alcoholism came back in my 5th year, and I didn't relapse until my 7th year. So my 5th year I became crazy, and I didn't pick up a drink until my 7th year. Those 2 years, I had enough built up in the bank in the first 5 that it took me another 2 to go out. But once I went out, it didn't matter how much time I had before. I remember when I was in detox and I was like, what does that guy know? He's only had 7 years, and I just had 7 years. Yeah, but I was sitting in detox with 7 minutes. So it doesn't matter what you have before. Once you use, you got to start again. And what the secret to my success, coming up on 19 years, which pales in comparison to my dear friend in front of me that has 31 years, the secret to my success is when I came back, I realized I was going to need to recreate myself in every way, like George did when he came back, like Taylor did when she came back. I knew that everything that I learned in those first 7 years, that was not going to apply in my new sobriety. You know why? Everything changes. You change. If everything worked for you the first time, you wouldn't have went out. So you have to erase everything, start again, and build new. Like when they built the new Freedom Towers in New York City, they didn't use the previous Twin Towers construction underneath. They wiped that all out, dug down to the center of the earth, and put in a new foundation. And that's what I needed to do. And you know my foundation is only as good as what I'm doing today. We just came from a meeting, myself and Paul, up in Boca Raton, where someone is hanging on for their dear life. His name is Kent Paul. He's an incredible man. He's sober many, many years. Was an incredible physical condition person, and now he's lost 150 pounds, and he's hanging on for his dear life. But you know what? I went to his bed tonight. I asked him if he can come to the meeting. Do you know Kent, George? I asked him if he can come to the meeting, and he said, no, man, I can't come to the meeting. That was at his house, because he had just had chemotherapy. Chemotherapy?
Yeah.
Chemotherapy?
Yeah.
3 days in a row. And this was the worst one. And he had no strength. And this is what he said. But I'll be at the meeting next Friday night. I'll be at the meeting next Friday night. And next Friday night, God willing, myself, Paul, maybe Anthony if he gets home early, we're going to go up there. We're going to be around a pool. And we're going to be sitting with him until the Lord takes any of us home. Nobody knows when we're going to go home. Whenever the Lord takes us, the Lord takes us. So how we're going to live our life is the key. And right now, Kent is hanging on by a thread, but really the truth of the matter is we're all hanging on by a thread. Our sobriety, our decisions, what we do. I mean, we really think that this is protecting us. Most of the time I see people with their masks like this. I mean, so, you know, this is all, the whole thing is a sham. Okay? This is a sham. The idea that we have any control is a sham. The only thing we can do is work our program in relationship to our God. He's the one that gives us the next 60 seconds of our life or the next 1 second of our life. And once we know that, and I think Taylor described it amazing tonight, she didn't say that she wasn't, as much as she spoke about how much she loved George, she reminded us it's the God in George that was so attracted to her, for her. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. So I'm very grateful that this is my home group. I'm grateful I share this group with all of you that call this your home group. Eventually we're going to, God willing, we're going to be transferring back to the Faith International.
Point of Grace.
Thank you. Point of Grace International Ministries on Friday night. And then we'll be able to reach more people, and Tammy Jo will come back, and Renee Christine will come back, and we'll be able to get more people in here. And then eventually, over the next weeks or so, our Thursday night meeting, which is called the Spread the Message group, I think. Spread the Word group. That's going to be transferring back to the 12-step house. But I think Rob Sanchez, who's doing a phenomenal job, I think he's going to finish here, but it's really up to him what he wants to do. And then George's home group, the Stepping Out group on Sunday night, where his sponsor's wife is speaking right now. I think that's going to eventually, I think she'll probably maybe finish out the steps here and then maybe transfer over to the 12-step house. But everything is starting to make its way back to the way, not to the way it used to be, because it's not going to be like that, because you're going to have to wear meetings in masks inside in the meetings. But everything is transitioning its way back to the next phase of recovery in our lives. Whatever that looks like. You know, whatever that looks like. But I'll tell you what, the big book is not going to change. Post-COVID, pre-COVID. It's been the same. You know what else is the same? The Bible. The Bible and the big book don't need to change because they work. If it fails, if we fail, it wasn't because of those books. It's because we didn't work it. Amen?
Amen.
Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. we have a meeting called All About God. Tomorrow morning David Gaddis is going to be chairing. He's a great chairperson, great guy. And if you want to come and be part of that meeting, you can be part of that meeting right in here. I know that, Anthony, are you going to be going to work tomorrow?
No.
Oh, good. So you'll be making that meeting. And that'll be right inside this room at 9 o'clock. Then we have IOP at 11 o'clock. And then tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, I'm speaking on a Zoom meeting up in Boca Raton, if anybody's interested in that. 6 o'clock, we go to church at Calvary Chapel. 8 o'clock inside this very room, we have a meeting called the
Doing the Deal group.
Doing the Deal group. I don't think it's official name though, okay, so we'll let you call it that for now, but you need to have a business meeting. You can't just shout out the name because it sounds good to you. That's tomorrow. Yeah, that's tomorrow. You won't be there at that vote, I don't think, though, but you may be. We do everything online still, George, but we do it just like we're there. But tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, right now the Doing the Deal group is gonna be meeting to discuss their new name, and that's in here, and we'd love you guys to attend. And then, which sounds like a good name, Doing the Deal group. I do like that.
You
Yeah.
shot it down at first.
No, I did.
Oh, I felt
When?
like you did. When I just said it.
No, you need to have a business meeting. You can't just shout out a name and then that's the name. That's
We
not.
had a meeting at the end. We all decided on the name.
No.
We voted.
Decided
Two
to
people
vote.
voted.
Listen, I get you. I know. Listen, when I come up with an idea, it seems like everyone had voted on it already too. But it's not true. I come home to my wife. I go, sweetheart, what do you mean? We voted on going to away this weekend. As a matter of fact, I said we voted on us going away on a vacation this weekend. We were going to go to a hotel and go to a beach. She goes, what do you mean? You never even discussed it with me. I said, man, I thought I discussed it with you. So the vote is we're not going anywhere this week because I forgot to discuss it with her. So I get it. But tomorrow night you'll have that meeting and you'll discuss the new name or whatever the name is. And then Sunday morning we recommend you getting to church. Church by the Glaze, Calvary Chapel, Lighthouse Community Church, 10 a.m. There's amazing churches all around. And then on Sunday night you can be part of, I don't know if it's Taylor's home group, Stepping Out group, but on Sunday night you could be part of the Stepping Out group where this incredible young lady and her husband are members, and a great speaker this week is
Karina
DeLeo, and she's just fantastic, and she's in step 6, I believe, step 6 this week. So I mean, we're gonna have an incredible weekend, right?
Absolutely.
And no one's gonna be getting whacked for Memorial Day, because Memorial Day is a day that we're going to remember the people that passed from wars and from addictions. And there's no reason for any of us to give away our sobriety when we've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Amen?
Amen.
It really is so true. And I'm excited to be here with you guys. And I love this group. I love you guys. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love God. And it's going to be a positive weekend. Right, Andrew? Yay! I think that's it. Come on up. You had an amazing month. Oh, and guess what next week is? Medallions! Let's give Anthony a round of applause.
All right. This month we'll be celebrating Mario. I'll be celebrating 1 year.
Oh, man!
It is not easy.
What is that? What is your actual day?
29th.
That's wonderful.
It's actually next Friday.
That's
What's up, Ed?
Well, who else to celebrate, dear brother? I think Tammy Jo said she's
Danielle.
coming back to pick up her 9 years next week.
She's gonna come here?
That's what she said.
Oh, then Tammy Jo, we'll be waiting for you. Danielle, she's gonna
Danielle,
be
3 years?
3 years.
3 years?
All right, we're gonna do the chips. So who wants to give up the fight tonight and pick up the whites? Congratulations.
And I'm gonna give you a.
What?
Give me a hug? Air hug? I'm here with you all the time.
Are you giving up the white? I mean,
Yeah.
giving up the fight?
Welcome home. Thank you. Everybody, let's welcome Ian back.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, Ian.
All right, we going. Oh, it's you too? Come on, baby. Welcome home, Brittany. Tristan, this is the most important day of your life.
That's awesome,
All right,
man.
we're gonna move to 30 days. Anybody want to go for 30 days? Going once, going twice. $60 days. Anybody got 60 days? Online, anywhere. Congratulations. How about 90 days? Congratulations. Keep coming back and work if you work. Where we at now? 90 days. 6 months. Anybody picking up 6 months? How about 9 months? Suggestions, surrender, stop being a pretender. Get you a sponsor that you can talk to, trust, and get to work taking those steps. It will save your life. Thank you. All right, Kenny, can you read the golden text for us real quick?
I'm Kenneth, I'm an alcoholic.
Kenny!
Bill was at my house talking to my wife and me. We were eating lunch and I was listening and trying to find out why they had this release they had seemed to have. Bill looked across at my wife and said to her, "Henrietta, the Lord has been so wonderful to me, curing me of this terrible disease, that I just want to keep talking about it and telling people." I think I have the answer. Bill was very, very grateful that he had been released from this terrible thing, and he had given God the credit for having done it. And he's so grateful about it, he wants to tell other people about it. That sentence, "The Lord has been so wonderful to me, curing me of this terrible disease, that I just want to keep telling people about it," has been a sort of a golden text for the AA program and for me.
Taylor, I want to thank you again. I thought I needed makeup to look so good. You know, I want to thank everybody that spoke tonight. I want to thank everyone that came out. This actually helped me more than it helped anyone else, because you know everything that's been happening, people dying. This is not no game. You know what I'm saying? You got to take this very serious, because you might not care about your life, but anybody that's spent 3 minutes with you or 3 seconds, they care about you. That means your mom, your dad, whoever paying your rent, whoever is in your life, you got to care about those people. So that's why I do it. It's not for no popularity contest. It's not for you to like me, because sometimes the truth gonna hurt. So, you know, actually care about your life, because if you're gonna be here, put in the work. It would change it. You can see it. You can see it in the people that's doing it, and you can change the status quo. You know, when they say only certain people make it, it's up to you if you make it. Each and every one of y'all can make it in here. I believe in each and every one of you. The ones that's online, on Zoom, only one that can stop you is yourself. And the last thing I'm gonna say, this is not no game. Plain and simple. And I'm not gonna do it if I'm not gonna do it. So that's why I'm going all in about my recovery. That means each step is gonna teach you how to help yourself. You're gonna get a sponsor. He's gonna walk you through the steps. He's showing you at the same time how to walk somebody else through the steps to get out of your mind, body, and soul to help somebody else. And that will keep you sober. So we got a certain way of closing this meeting. Let's do it. Mario, hit them up. Let us know. Clear us out.
Let's have a moment of silence to still the sick and suffering, followed by the Lord's Prayer. Father,
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Stay.